following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Fantasy Fridays. It's Kelsey with you back again here for another installment, and the final installment where I select individual different positions. Next week, we're going to put it all together, compare the rosters, and get ready for the regular season because, as you know, we talked about this. We're going to update this throughout the regular season as well. Kind of give you a basis of each week, how each selection I perform, whether my flops flopped and the players I'm a fan of panned out. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be right. This might be a very sad segment come mid-season, the way things are going. So we'll have to wait and see. But today's a little different. We're going to go defense and kickers. So special teams, defense, and then kickers all by themselves as well. Two positions where a lot of players, they don't really pick and keep a player at these positions. But if you have the opportunity to snag one of these guys early, I do recommend it and try to stick with them for the year. These guys have panned out pretty well in the past. I expect a little bit of the same this year as well. But as always, we're going to start with our flops here, kickers and defense special team flops. And we're going to go straight into the defense and special teams. I'm not even going to sugarcoat this one. This is going to be the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are going to be on the field so much this year that it is going to be a tough sled for them to try to ever do anything defensively, special teams wise. You talk about a team that in the last 3 years have not finished in the top 10 in defensive statistics for fantasy football. 12th was their best year. That was last year. And now you're asking the same team who had a winning quarterback on the other side, who now has a young rookie quarterback, to try to be out there 20% more of the times and try to make more stops and get you more points. I don't think it's going to happen. They do have some holes there in their defense as well. It just doesn't look good for the Packers. I don't think this is a good situation. If you can avoid the Packers defense at all, maybe occasionally in a matchup situation, you could stream them for a week, but I don't think this is one that you want to try to pick in the draft and try to ride with all season long if you can avoid it. There are much better options out there. And, obviously there's a much better option in my the team I'm a fan of as well, but we'll get to that one a little bit later. Before that, we're going to go jump straight into the kicker flops here. I'm going Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker, very interesting pick for a lot of people. They're like, oh, but he's on the Chiefs. He should score a lot of points. No, realistically, he shouldn't. In the last 3 seasons, he has not finished in the top 10 in scoring for kickers. Yes, obviously there was an injury plague season in between all of that, but it's been since 2018 in which he finished in the top 10 as a scoring for a kicker. And a lot of that comes down to the fact he's not kicking a lot of field goals. He's kicking a lot of extra points. While that's great and all for, small points, you're trying to get 9-10 points out of your kicker each and every week. And Harrison Butker only averages about 7 points, 6 points a game throughout his career for fantasy football wise. So trying to avoid Harrison Butker if at all possible. Again, maybe in certain situations, maybe in some of these winter situations where he's, where the Chiefs are going into a cold environment, a snowy environment, or maybe there's a bad storm in Kansas City. Might be a good time to pick him up for a good week or two if you have to stream him, if maybe your kicker's hurt or he's on a bye week. It's always a possibility, but I try to avoid him from the outset of the season, if at all possible. There are, again, much better options out there for the kickers I'm a fan of. But that'll take us straight into the defense and special teams I am a fan of. That's the Dallas Cowboys. And I know as a Cowboys fan, this might seem a little blasphemous, but there's a reason why. You're talking about the team that was second in fantasy defense last year. You're talking about 4th in sacks, 1st on fumble recoveries, 9th in interceptions, 7th in defensive touchdowns last year. And you talk about a team in the last 2 years has been the number 1 takeaway team in the league 2 years running. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you have the Patriots out there, you have Eagles out there. Look, the Eagles got you a bunch of sacks last year. That's great. That's wonderful. Fantastic. But we all know when it comes to fantasy football, takeaways do more than sacks at the end of the day. Now, when you get 20 more sacks than every other team, you do pretty good special teams fantasy-wise. But I don't know if that's going to happen again for the Eagles. You do have the Patriots out there as another option here. I was leaning a little bit towards the Patriots for this position, but I got to say the Cowboys. Adding Stephon Gilmore, adding that lockdown corner on the backside so Trevon Diggs can go back to his ball hawking ways, if you will. The Cowboys will give up yards, whatever. They're going to be in a lot of games, though, at the end of the day. And defense, when they can get takeaways, when they score off of those takeaways, that's a threat. And you still have Micah Parsons there. There's a lot of different weapons in that defense on paper. So this should be a good season for them. I do see the Dallas Cowboys, again, for another season, finishing in the top 10 in fantasy football here, and a pretty good team to start out your season with. Obviously, you might have to stream occasionally, especially for bye weeks or anything like that. But for defensive wise, I think this is a good option for you to start with and try to avoid anything. Obviously, you have the 49ers out there. That's a safe pick for a lot of different people. As long as Bosa's healthy, that team makes a lot of sense across the board. It's not just the Bosa show in San Francisco anymore. So, that is always a possibility as well. If you have that option to take that first defense, go ahead and do that. But if you don't have that option to take the first defense, Cowboys as a second, third option is a good option for you. And that'll lead us into the kickers I'm a fan of, and I've been a fan of this kicker since his days in Minnesota, even though he didn't work out very well in fantasy. That's Daniel Carlson. Daniel Carlson, since he moved to Las Vegas, has been nothing short of outstanding. We're talking about a guy who's coming off a record-breaking 2022 season, made 34 of 37 field goals last year, 35 of 36 extra points, 97% accuracy rate, which is insane. You're talking all AP all pro last year, all NFL team. I mean, there's statistics on top of statistics. The last 3 seasons, scoring-wise for fantasy football, you're looking at third last year in a record-breaking season, third. First the year before that, and first the year before that. Tough to look at Daniel Carlson and not think he's going to have a bunch of opportunities as well in Las Vegas. Kind of the flip side of Harrison Butker. Harrison Butker, his team scores too much, so he won't get as many opportunities to kick field goals, whereas Daniel Carlson, his team stalls out a lot. Obviously, we are talking about a new team with a new quarterback at Jimmy Garoppolo. We don't know how that always works, but historically, Jimmy Garoppolo's kickers are top 10 scoring kickers. So it is something to look at for your kicking game. Again, kickers defense, they're a weird position because a lot of players end up streaming or, cycling through these positions pretty regularly. But you always see it every year. There's always somebody who wins the league, usually doesn't touch their kicker, doesn't touch their special teams if they can avoid it, just because they usually get an early one. A good team or a good kicker early, and they ride them out. So just a recap here. I got my defensive flop as the Packers. Defensive fan, the Cowboys. Kicker, I'm a flop, Harrison Butker. I just don't see it happening. And I'm a fan of Daniel Carlson for the Raiders. Stay tuned next week. We are going to put it all together, and we are going to show you team-by-team comparisons, how they rank, and how that's going to project week in and week out. We can even throw in projection for week 1 now that we're close enough. So you'll get to see those projections week in and week out and how they actually score the following week. So be sure to stay tuned for all that fun, as well as a lot more coming from the High Low Sports YouTube account. We have obviously Tier Tuesdays still running. Every Wednesday we go live 8 p.m. Eastern time from our YouTube account for our live episode every week. And then this week, very special occasion on Sunday, we have a fantasy football draft for our Belly Up League. So it's a bunch of Belly Up fantasy football experts along with a bunch of different hosts from different shows on the Belly Up Network. We're going to be running a league all week, all season long, and it's going to be a fun content league. We're going to be posting about it every week. We're going to have it on our show. I'm probably even going to talk about it here as well. You'll see some of these players I've talked about potentially making our team draft. It's DJ and I are going to be sharing a team, so very fun, very exciting to watch that all season long as it progresses. So be sure to stay tuned for a lot of content coming from there. And as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And until next week, we will see you later.